What do you mean? What is a vortex? A vortex is a vibrational state of being that is the precursor of all positive motion forward of all that is. It's like encapsulated, condensed, straight up source. It's pure positive energy. It's the holding tank. It's the anchor. It's the touchstone. It's the place where all dreams and wishes and hopes are held until we find vibrational alignment with them. It's the eternal pool of well-being to which each of us have added mightily along the path of our physical experience. So this vortex, it is a reality even though you can't see it, but you can feel it. You know how your dog hears things you can't hear and smells things you don't want to smell? Because your dog has more acute sensitivity to sound than you do. Sound is just vibration, and hearing is just translating it. Smelling is just translating vibration. So this vortex is something that while you can't see it, and while you may not be able to hear it, when you get in the vicinity of it, you can feel the deliciousness of it. And when you are far from it, you can feel the discord of not being close to it. Do you know that everything you feel all day, every day, is nothing more than feedback about your proximity to your vortex? So when you feel really ornery, you're vibrationally speaking not near your vortex. When you feel hopeful, you're right on the brink of it. In fact, this door to the vortex, this imaginary door in Abraham's fairy tale of the vortex, this vibrational entry point is somewhere between hope and belief. So when you feel hopeful about something, you're so in the vicinity that you'll be called in, you'll be swept in. Law of attraction will take you in. Law of attraction will take you in when there is not enough resistance to hold you out. How's that? If you weren't doing that thing you do that holds you apart from your vortex would take you in every time. When you slumber, in you go. But you wake up right where you were when you went in. If you go to sleep in the vortex, you wake up in the vortex. If you go to sleep not in the vortex, you wake up not in the vortex. Have you ever had an experience where you're ornery when you go to sleep? You sleep all night, you sleep pretty good, you wake up, still ornery. So the vortex is the source of well-being, calling you home, so to speak, calling you to all that you've created. And when you are not clinging with resistance to some thought that keeps you from it, it takes you right in. So really, when we say we want you to get into the vortex, what we really mean, a much more accurate way of saying it is, we want you to stop doing that thing you do that keeps the vortex from taking you in easily. Oh, you're going, you're just not going willingly sometimes. In other words, when you croak, in you go. And so when we talk about the vortex, what we really want, like everyone to find a way of experiencing is your vortex, no matter who you are, will take you in at one time or another every single day. Something will happen where you will come into alignment with who you are. It might be a bird that you see. It might be a piece of the sky that you see. It might be a fragrance that comes past you. It might be a piece of a song that you hear. It might be, Jerry talks about a time former in his life experience where he was in such a state of depression he could not pull himself out. And the harder he tried, the worse it got. The more he beat up on himself for being depressed, the more depressed he felt. And then one day, he just followed an impulse to go down and sit on the rocks overlooking a lake. Drove for a little while, sat himself there, and a family came. They were not aware of him, would not have wanted to be aware of him because he was sort of lurking and they just proceeded on their happy day. They were nice to each other. They were complimentary of each other. They were excited about the day. They laid out their picnic. They got in their boat. They just bead the happy, tuned in, tapped in, turned on people that they were. And as Jerry simply sat and observed them, his depression lifted off of him, because he stopped facing the issue. He stopped struggling in the injustice. He stopped going down his list of pros and cons and rights and wrongs. In other words, he just let go for a moment, and like the cork that floats back to the surface, he came back into his alignment. So what we are really encouraging relative to things that are this big and this deep and this prevalent and this important, you got to pull out the big guns. You got to pull out all the stops for it, which means you got to be in the vortex before you even contemplate it. You got to be in tune with who you are before you even contemplate it. And when you are, you're seeing the world through the eyes of Source. And when you're seeing the world through the eyes of Source, if a child is learning to walk and walks into your room and isn't very good at it and falls down, you don't say, "Get up, you little dummy." You know that this child will find its balance, and you give it only encouraging words. And yet when someone is out of the vortex and not feeling good and misbehaving and treating people badly, there's a tendency to say, "You need to be excluded from our society, and we need to punish you into compliance, and we need to educate you into a better way of life." And none of that works, because you just cannot motivate from outside the vortex. You can only inspire from inside the vortex.
How are you in the vortex, Abraham, and honor the pain or the discomfort?
Can't do it. Here's what happens. As you take the subject that is bothering you the most out of the equation just for a moment by saying, "Can't do anything about it anyway. I can't change all these people. I can't fix it. I can't fix it if I want to. I can't do it this red hot minute anyway. Yeah. What I really want is alignment. What I really want for them is alignment. What I'm really wanting is to feel my own alignment." So you just kind of try to talk yourself into that general place. But then, if you will meditate and quiet your mind, when you stop thought, you stop resistant thought. When you stop resistant thought, your vibration raises. Yes. When your vibration raises, you come back into the subject at that different perspective, you see. So what happens is, as little by little, you allow the vortex to train you to that higher frequency, two things begin to happen right away. The first thing that happens is, fewer of those people that were behaving in that way have access to you, because it's not as active in your vibration.
Yes.
Now, some would say, "But isn't that putting your head in the sand? Isn't that just carving out this little nice world for yourself and leaving all of the others out there to deal with whatever it is that they're dealing with?" And we say, it might be that, but the alternative doesn't work anyway. In other words, you can't go out of the world. Yeah. You can't get sick enough to help a sick person get well. You can't get poor enough to help poor people be prosperous. You can't get mean enough to help mean people get nice. You see, you can't feel pain about their suffering and be, as Jesus was, in vibrational alignment with their well-being. You just can't do it. You can't make those vibrational shifts, you see. Yeah. So is it appropriate for you to feel the sting of injustice? Of course it's appropriate. That's part of the sifting of the contrast. You couldn't give birth to the brighter, better world if you didn't see some of it that isn't so good. You couldn't ask with the clarity that you do. But there are millions of people, there are billions of people that are sifting through the contrast, who are asking, who are putting the rocket into their vortex, and Source is answering, who are depriving themselves of the very answers that they seek, because they are so focused upon the problem, you see. And so little by little you come into alignment. Little by little you allow the vortex to train you until it just feels natural for you to feel good. And then, as we started to say, two things happen. You see less of it, and when you do see it, you are vibrationally prepared. When you do see it, you're seeing the world through the eyes of Source. You don't take it personally when someone is stupid. You don't take it personally when someone misbehaves. You don't take it personally, because you know it's a vibrational thing that they don't have control of yet. Everyone wants to feel love. We promise you, everyone wants to feel good. They just don't know how to do it. And so it's just going to take more who are doing it unconditionally. Unconditional love says, I am in alignment with who I am regardless of the situation. But it's asking a lot of you to look at something that just yanks your chain and rings your bells in a very negative way, and to ask you to just turn the other cheek and be at one with it. That isn't what it is all about. It's about letting yourself see it, letting yourself feel it, let what you really want be born within you, and then tuning yourself to who you really are and to what you really want. And little by little, the world becomes a place that likes itself better. But we want to say this in a way that you can really feel it from us. And it's going to feel off to those who are so wanting to be of service to the world that you want to go out and feel their pain and wrap your arms around them and bring them home with you. We just want to remind you, source energy, that which man calls God, is standing in the vortex welcoming them in. And even God doesn't leave the vortex. Yeah. Because if that were to happen, you wouldn't feel the disconnection. In other words, Esther will say, she said it on a pretty regular basis, Abraham, come out of the vortex with me now. Yes. Because I don't like the separation and I can't get in, so you got to come out. And she discovers we never come. We never, ever, ever, ever come. That's the way all of this works. In other words, source energy always maintains the highest vibration and the greatest love that has been created. And you have no choice but to line up with that, you see. So when you look at it that way, when you realize that there are plenty of people who want to feel better than they do, and so in your attitude of wanting to help them, you step out of the vortex into your awareness of what's troubling them, into that frequency where you now no longer have connection to the resources of your source. Yes. And now that's why you really feel the rage and anger at them, is because it's like, whether it's someone that you love who is struggling with something, or someone that you don't like at all who is struggling with something, as you observe them in their struggle, you feel negative emotion because you cannot stay in alignment with who you are as you observe their struggle. And then your attitude usually is, I need you to clean up your act because I want to feel good, and when I look at you I don't feel good, so you need to do this and this and this and this and this because I need a manifestation here, because I don't have the ability to stay in alignment with my source energy. I'm just an observer, and what I'm observing isn't good, so you need to do something about it, which is totally giving your power away, right. Totally disempowering yourself, you see. That what unconditional love is, I have the ability to tune myself into vibrational alignment with all that I am. I have the ability to love you. I have the ability to see you in your success even when you're demonstrating your lack of it. Yes. I have the ability to see you well even when you are currently sick. Mm-hmm. I have the ability because I practiced when you were asleep. I practiced when you weren't around. I practiced when it was easy. I practiced when I was in my treehouse. I practiced when I was watching the sunset. I practiced during my meditation. I practiced during the beautiful music. I practiced yes. my alignment yes. with Source, and now I can unconditionally offer this love of Source.
I got it. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you do. You see, and you can't feel that way without being there. In other words, that you're in the vortex, you're in alignment with who you are. In other words, and the question as it began is non-existent now, isn't it? Irrelevant completely. Very good.